Happy Saturday, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. I'm Jeremy Birmingham. That's Andrew Ellis. This is a Snap Judgments presented by Buyers Auto. Ohio State, after a week of a couple, let's say negative outcomes on the recruiting trail, is back in the win column on Saturday as Riley Pettijohn, the country's number one ranked inside linebacker, according to Rivals.com, a massive, prospect and win for Ohio State on the recruiting trail. Picks Ohio State over USC, Texas A&M, Texas, and about 30 others. Andrew, how do you feel now? Better?
Yeah, slightly better. I mean, this doesn't make up for some recent misses, but he's still, a hell of a player, fringe 5-star type of guy from the state of Texas. Everybody wanted him. If you had told me, 3 weeks ago that Ohio State would miss on a guy like Justin Hill and get Riley Pettijohn, I would have probably told you were crazy, though you have kind of been hinting at this for a while. And I was sort of hesitant to accept the fact that Ohio State might get this kid out of Texas. But no, I mean, it's a huge win for James Laurinaitis and a nice bounce back for Ohio State after a couple of tough losses.
Yeah, and we obviously can talk about those losses. I mean, it's been a week since Dorian Brew committed to Oregon, and then Justin Hill commits to Alabama on Wednesday, and then Thursday we see DeCorian Moore commit to Oregon, which is just playing with funny money right now. I mean, there's not a whole lot of other ways to put it. They are doing things that is totally legal, so no problem. For Ohio State, though, for Riley Pettijohn, 6'3", 215-pound linebacker. He runs a 10.7 in the 100. Like, this is a freak athlete. His father played over a decade of professional football, a couple of years in the NFL after coming out of Syracuse as an All-American. So you've got like incredible genetics here. His mother's from Cincinnati, so there was a little bit of an Ohio draw from the start. But ultimately, this came down to James Laurinaitis, as you said. And this is a guy that is a linebacker. Okay, so like when we're talking about the Justin Hill conundrum, and I don't want to make the Riley Pettijohn Snap Judgments presented by Buyers Auto about Justin Hill, but there is no gray area here about what Riley Pettijohn is going to be at the next level. There is no confusion about where he fits in the Ohio State defense. This is a linebacker who can play any spot in that level of the defense. He is a player that James Laurinaitis has been absolutely highlighting for the last 6 months. And it was hard to see this going Ohio State's way until, I think it was March. He made a visit up for a spring practice in Columbus, and I think it was Student Appreciation Day. And you could see that there was something real there. And that's really when I started to pound the drum that I felt like Ohio State was a much bigger threat here than anyone was giving them credit for. And as things evolved over the last month, when he made his official visit to Ohio State, you could just kind of get the vibe that this is a kid who loved what James Laurinaitis was about and loved what the Buckeyes program is about. USC and A&M made a push here at the end, but I never really understood all the Texas hype that was being generated. I guess it's because for a kid in Texas, the assumption, like a kid from Ohio, is that they're going to pick the hometown school. That was not the case for Justin Hill on Wednesday. That's not the case for Riley Pettijohn on Saturday. But now what you have in James Laurinaitis' first full class as a full-time assistant coach is two extremely athletic, long-levered, twitched-up outside linebacker prospects in TJ Alford and Riley Pettijohn, and then your very traditional Mike inside linebacker with Eli Lee. And it was absolutely vital for Ohio State to get 3 in this class. And I have a tough time thinking that it could have gone better for James Laurinaitis in cycle number 1.
No, it's a hell of a trio for James Laurinaitis. There's no denying that. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the whole Texas thing. I think through most of the process, that was just the presumptive favorite, and it makes sense. Obviously, he's playing down there. But I know on Rivals, he's listed as a number 1 middle linebacker in the country. Again, you said Eli Lee is probably going to be more of that middle guy for Ohio State. I don't know exactly where he fits. I just know he's a hell of a player. Like I said, borderline 5-star type of guy. He's watching his film. He looks like he's got some long arms. I don't know if he's like a CJ Hicks type. I was trying to think of like a name I could compare him to when I was watching his huddle. But he's a good player. That's what really matters here. So
yeah, the comparison I see, and it was mentioned on the Ohio State Rivals message board as people have been discussing Riley Pettijohn. To me, he's very reminiscent of Ryan Shazier. Just the body style, the way he plays. This is a kid who played safety most of his prep life. He just became a linebacker before last season. Like he's figuring it out how to play that spot, but athletically he's so different and so gifted that you can put him anywhere you want. He can play the middle. He can play the outside linebacker role. He could probably play the jack type of, if you had him. Once he gets to like probably 6'3", 240, well, I'm sure he'll end up like he's just everything you want. And he plays high school football in the Dallas metro area at McKinney High School. Like there's when you're building a linebacker, that's what you want, right? Like this is a guy who is going to be a difference maker early in his career for Ohio State. And it's again for James Laurinaitis and all the discussion and the vibe check around James Laurinaitis. Like, can he be that Brian Hartline type of recruiter? Can he elevate the defensive recruiting to the Tim Walton, to complement what Tim Walton has done? And this cycle, everyone's going to scoff at Eli Lee. I think he's still a 3-star, and most people's sites, Rivals has him as a 4-star. But to go to Florida and land TJ Alford, to go to Texas and land Riley Pettijohn, that is a shot across the bow of college football. And I know that people will look at the Justin Hill thing, and I don't know if anyone's putting the blame on Laurinaitis for that not going the Buckeyes' direction, but if they are, they shouldn't be. This is a guy that really does understand the mindset of a high school football recruit, because he was one 15 years ago and was a really, really good player in the NFL and at Ohio State, obviously. And those things are resonating with these young linebackers across the country. And, as we get ready in less than 2 weeks now to play NCAA 2025, I think there's something to the idea that a lot of these kids like, you were on Madden when I was growing up, like that means something. And James Laurinaitis, like as a person, as a player, like what he was as a player and then what he is now as a person, and his enthusiasm for coaching and for teaching, like that resonates, man. And the kids are you're going to see Ohio State become a destination for linebackers. And maybe he's not going to get the credit he deserves in this class because of what Tim Walton has done with the cornerbacks. But this is as good a 3-man group at linebacker for Ohio State as I can remember in the last probably decade.
Yeah, as you said, with Laurinaitis being a bit of a younger guy, he just seems like somebody who's good with that whole relationship side, the social media stuff. We see him active on there. If Ohio State can get another coach whose recruiting prowess is up there with Walton or Hartline, I mean, that's certainly going to be a tremendous thing. So, Pettijohn kind of has a special place in my heart. He wears the number 7, which is awesome. His dad signed with our Bengals coming out of Syracuse. So a lot going on there. But yeah, just a massive win for James Laurinaitis.
As a recruit of national ranking wise, if we go On3 has Riley Pettijohn as the number 2 ranked linebacker. 247 has him as the number 5 ranked linebacker. ESPN has him as the number 5 ranked linebacker, and Rivals has him as the number 1 ranked linebacker. His lowest national ranking as an overall player is number 58 on 247 Sports. I'm not entirely sure how they calculate those things, but 6'3", 215 pounds. The tape is really good. The player is really good. The fit from a football IQ standpoint is really good. It's hard to sometimes look past the negatives when it comes to recruiting, and everyone's been in a dour mood all week after the losses on Dorian Brew and Justin Hill and Decory Moore to some extent. But like, this is one people should be super excited about because he's a player Ohio State had circled. He is the top ranked linebacker on their board. As far as the uncommitted players in the country, like they have in effect passed on other linebackers, believing that they were going to be able to win this recruitment, which is a bold step to take. It's a bold strategy. I mean, especially in the year 2024, when it comes to recruiting, just to say, hey, we're going to tell Madden Fremo, we don't need you to even make your official visit. We feel like we're going to do what we need here. They didn't really go that hard after Nathaniel Owusu-Koramoah. They have Boateng, sorry, his brother was Cormo. Like they have tiptoed around other linebackers in the last month because they really felt that things were moving in the right direction with Riley Pettijohn. And so to do that and to close on it on this fine, beautiful Saturday afternoon is really, really important for Ohio State. The recruiting class is still the number one ranked class in the country with 23 commitments. And despite the negativity swirling in the last week, that is the case. There's 23 commitments. They're number one ranked class in the country. We'll talk for a moment, if we can, about Dorian Brew and Justin Hill. But on Talking Stuff and other shows, we've been trying to express that there are some weird mitigating circumstances in both of those recruitments that are hard to ignore. I mean, Justin Hill, I think it was last October that I started talking about Alabama, like watch out for Alabama. The family has a very deep a love affair with Alabama, and that was something that was going to be hard to overcome. And then you throw the positional stuff on top of it. Like it felt like Ohio State could have won that one. And so I think that's where like it's justifiable to be annoyed that they didn't, because I think that they very well could have. I think that there were a couple missteps, which maybe we'll talk about later, in this week when we get a full Talking Stuff back up, probably Tuesday or so. But there was an opportunity for Ohio State to win that one, and that's why it sort of stinks. When it comes to Dorian Brew, like the kid was very clear, I think, from the minute that Naeem Offord committed, that he was not comfortable with the idea of being the third cornerback in the class. And I think what's actually somewhat ironic, and maybe Ohio State fans will find it a touch of schadenfreude, or however you say that word. If DJ Pickett ends up picking Oregon, now that they have Brandon Finney and if DJ Pickett ends up picking Oregon, like he's going to find himself in a very similar position, which will be somewhat, I guess, ironic. I mean, you're certainly not wishing for a kid to feel slighted, but like if the idea was that Dorian Brew wants to be viewed and paid as the number one ranked corner in your class, like all of a sudden that's sort of tenuous when it comes to Oregon. But that's what he was looking for, and Ohio State could not and would not provide that. So like you can't disagree or say the kid made a poor decision. But even in that recruitment, I don't think that Dorian Brew decided he was going to Oregon until like an hour before he announced it. Like I just don't think anyone knew.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like a last minute type of a thing, or maybe he knew and just was being kind of secretive about it. But I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on Oregon's payroll and how they kind of allocate their funds. I'm sure they have a lot of them floating around, as it's pretty obvious of late. But yeah, I mean, the Hill thing sucks. The Brew thing sucks. The Pettijohn commitment, though, is a massive deal. And I mean, this defensive class has got to be getting close. I know we talked this is going to be a bigger class, but I mean, the defensive class is filling up pretty quickly. And I mean, I can't imagine there's more than a couple spots left unless I'm forgetting something.
They would, on defense right now, you're looking to see what happens with Malik Autry. Obviously the defensive tackle from Alabama that is committed to Auburn. Like that's a big one. Linebacker is done. You might still, you could add a third corner from someone that Ohio State's philosophy from here when it comes to the third cornerback, when it comes to maybe like seeing if somebody else elevates themselves into the discussion at that jack position. When it comes to like Vernell Brown is probably going to stay in Florida. Like we can start writing him off as wide receiver. So obviously Ohio State offered Preston Bowman. I don't know if that's certainly not a like for like replacement when it comes to the national perspective, but the Buckeyes are going to enter or finish, this month, provided that nothing happens with David Sanders or he doesn't make an earlier decision, et cetera. You're going to basically be done with recruiting in July. There's not expected to be any other major decisions coming for Ohio State until David Sanders makes his announcement, which is supposed to be mid-August. But you're going to finish this recruiting stretch as the number one ranked class in the country with 23 commitments. They still need another wide receiver. They still need and would still take another running back. So that's 25. You're still looking at least two more offensive linemen. That's 27. Then you're looking at another defensive tackle, whether that's Jarquez Carter, who commits on July 18th. We'll see if Ohio State actually still opens that door. I do not have a good read on that, so I'm not going to pretend I do. Like, I think it would be a mistake to bring in a third defensive tackle, knowing that Malik Autry is out there and that Jakeem Stewart's reclassification is out there. They're done at linebacker. They're not probably going to. They will not recruit another player at the jack position, is what I was told. They will continue to recruit Justin Hill and hope that they can convince him to flip his verbal. Corner, you take one. Maybe it's an evaluation guy in the season. Obviously, they did not move on Dwayne Galloway from Marion Franklin in Ohio. He committed to Purdue on Friday. And then you still have Messiah Delhomme, the safety prospect from Virginia, who commits at the end of August. So, we're still talking 28, 29 guys in this class. And right now, number one class in the country, adding the number one ranked linebacker in the country on Saturday. Exhale, you get through this part of we knew that there was going to be a lot of recruiting happenings in this first week of July, but what it's done, even though Ohio State missed on a few players that they wanted, it's provided a lot of clarity about where things go from here. And the board is pretty small. They will reevaluate some guys and see if there's anybody who makes a step up in their senior seasons. But with Riley Pettijohn in the class and what they've done at defensive tackle with Maxwell Roy, with Trajan Odom, what you have at defensive end with Zion Grady and Zahir Mathis and London Merritt, what you have at corner with Devin Sanchez and Naeem Offord, what you have at safety with Fahim Delane and Cody Haddad and
Stewart.
Deshaun Stewart in New Jersey. You have as good a defensive class as Ohio State has had in quite some time. This is it. I don't know if it's going to rival the 2021 class on defense when it all is said and done, but it's right there. Malik Autry, I think, is the guy that would put that over the top. But this is a great class. And yes, this last week has had some bad news, but today, Saturday, Ohio State gets some great news as Riley Pettijohn picks the Buckeyes. This has been Snap Judgments presented by Byers Auto. He's Andrew Ellis. I'm Jeremy Birmingham. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.